So today we're working through the Ad Workshop 4 Adobe Analog to Digital. We're going to be looking at how to turn your sketches from an analog sketch that you've done on paper into something digital, whether this be a poster, just a nice image, or anything digital. So why edit your sketches? It's a good way to elevate your ideas and show your concepts behind what you're doing for your project. It's great practice using Adobe software, but it just looks better in your portfolio than having a scan of a sketch or an image of a sketch that's kind of pixelated or coloured weird. It's nice to have a crisp sketch. So here's some examples of how you could use this. These are quite very visual, really nice sketches. Like, you can edit them as heavily as you want. So we're going to be using the Adobe Creative Cloud today. These are all a big family of softwares that all work together really nicely. We're going to start by using Photoshop. This is raster based, which means it uses pixels to create an image. This means that if you're making your image massive, it will pixelate, which you don't want for your hand in. The quality is measured in PPI, pixels per square inch. The higher your PPI, the better quality your image is, but if it's massive, your computer might struggle to deal with it. And we're also going to use Illustrator. This is vector based, so it uses mathematical paths to create all the lines, and it is independent of the resolution, so you can make it as big as you want. It won't pixelate, it'll just rework out the maths and keep everything nice and clean. This is good if you're wanting to print out a big poster, or you're wanting to zoom really close into one part of your image and get a photo of that. It's just nice to be able to scale your image and not lose any of the quality. Another thing to be aware of is the colour mode. RGB is for screens, CMYK is for printing. So RGB uses all three colours. If they're all turned on, it's white, uses a mixture of each of them to create any other colour. This is how computer screens work, so that's why if you're designing for screen, use RGB. CMYK is how printers work. It uses the four of them to create each colour in different variations. It has a smaller range of colour because it's not backlit like computers are, so the colour spectrum is smaller. It is quite complicated if you get into it, but basically, if you print in a document and you print from RGB, it will come out different colours from the printer, as it's not able to make all the colours. So you can convert CMYK on your computer, readjust the colours, and then it'll print the same colours on your screen as it does on the printer. However, the printers at MTC should now do it automatically from RGB. If you use other printers, you'll probably have to do it yourself. The variation of colour is not massive, but if you're making work to hand in, you should really go and change it and make sure it looks good. So, how to set up your Photoshop document. We're going to be doing an A4 size document, so that's 297mm by 210. We're going to use 300 pixels per inch, so the resolution will be 300 ppi, and we're going to design in RGB. same in Illustrator. A4 document, we're going to use RGB rather than CMYK and 300 ppi. We're going to work in both of them at the same time by placing the Photoshop file in our Illustrator file. This will mean that once we edit the photo on Photoshop, it'll automatically update in Illustrator. So we don't have to we can flick between them and we don't have to replace the image every time we edit it in Photoshop. This is a really nice way to work between the two of them. Yeah, the workflow is really good. However, if you move the file, once you've placed it, if you move the location of the file in your laptop or your computer, it'll no longer be able to find it and you'll have to relink the file. So if you send your document to someone with placed images in, you'll also have to send the images that you placed so they can link them. I'll show you how to embed images in Illustrator once you've finished editing them and you're wanting to send the file, so you don't have to do this. Yeah, however, once it's embedded, that's it in there, so it won't, if you edit it in Photoshop, it won't update it in Illustrator, so do this at the end. Here's a page on how to embed images on Illustrator. And finally, I'm going to show you Adobe Express. This used to be Adobe Spark and it's web-based. It's really good for graphic design. It has hundreds of presets that work really well. It's great for branding. You can edit short videos. You can edit your social media posts. It's great for social media. You can schedule posts for Instagram. You can, it has like a TikTok video setting. And also you can translate documents in it. And I think it does a pretty good job. Mustn't have spell check though. For the presentations, it is a really good tool. It has bits of loads of different Adobe software in it, so it works really well for like light editing. I wouldn't go really heavily editing images in it, just use Photoshop, but if you're trying to throw some stuff together, present some work nicely, it is good to use. And here you can see some of the things it does. You can make logos in it, generate QR codes, which is very useful rather than using a third-party website, removing background, resizing images, and converting from PDF. You can put in a PDF and it'll pick up the text boxes, it'll pick up the images, so you can move them all around. It's really smart. It's good to use. It's worth having a play with. Okay. That's the end of the presentation. We'll get on to doing some work now. So if you open Photoshop, we'll make a new document. Go to New File. Up here is different presets for different things. We're just going to use A4. So we'll go up here, but as you can see, there's loads of different size documents. We use A4, we'll keep it portrait, keep it on 300 ppi resolution and RGB color. And then just click create. This is how my document loads. You may have a different workspace, so if you click on Window, Workspace, we'll just go to Essential. Mine's on Essentials, but if you click on Essentials default, that'll pop up with everything you need. And you can also set guides and rules and change how you view your documents. I'm just going to turn off extras, and that'll turn off my blue grid that I had set up from a previous document. you can set up really good rulers and grids and get things to snap to it. It's really nice if you're working on something like a graphic poster or something, you can get all of your assets aligned. So we're going to we're going to embed an image. We don't need to link the image. So place embedded, 1. These are from the Moodle page. You can download these images or just work on your own. Perfect. So there we go. We've got that image placed. To scale the image, you can scale it and warp it. However, if you hold Shift, it'll scale with keeping the aspect. I'm going to make this bigger. Oh. You need to hold Shift until after you've clicked up off your mouse, or it will do what just happened to me. Yeah, there we go. So, to begin with, we're just going to cut out this building in the middle. I'm going to show you how to make a collage on Illustrator of a few different buildings and edit them a few ways on there. So, over here's your layers panel. We've got the background that's locked, that's just the white, and then on top we've got this image that we embedded. We'll just click on that. You can see it's gone a lighter grey, that means it's selected. And we'll go up to here, the selection brush tool. All the tools have a keyboard key that if you just hit that key, it'll come up. So, for example, if we hit L, we'll now have the selection brush tool on the magnetic lasso. We'll have now selected that. So if you want to get back to the move tool, just your normal cursor, hit V and you can move things around. So we'll go to the selection brush. If you click and hold on it, you can see all the different options. We're going to use the magnetic lasso tool. And we're going to make sure that our layer is selected. So this will mean that as we go around the building, it'll cling to points on the image. So we'll just slowly go around. I'm using a trackpad for this. However, if you have a drawing tablet, like a Wacom tablet, it's loads easier and you can be a lot more precise. And then just link up to the start point. So you can see now there's this black and white like bit thing around my building. They're the marching ants, so when they're on, that means that the bit that is selected. Because we've embedded the file, we need to rasterize it so we can edit it. So we'll go right click on your layer or double click, rasterize layer. This means that it's now editable. So we've got this. If I just press the backspace button, it's going to delete the building. I don't want that. I want to delete the surroundings. So Command and Z is backspace on Mac. We will go to select and inverse. That will pick everything else up, and I'll hit backspace. Then Command and D for deselect. That's Alt and D. And there we go, we've got rid of the background. I'm going to click V on my keyboard and I'll be back onto the move tool. As you can see, the image was bigger than the background, so we've still got these bits to the side. We will use the rectangular marquee tool and just get all that, make sure we've selected our layer, backspace, deselect the, we don't need to get rid of these bits, but it's good practice for if we're moving it around. Select it again, select our layer, backspace to get rid of it, Alt D to deselect, V for the selection tool. It's good once you've started using Photoshop and Illustrator quite a bit. A lot of the keyboard controls are the same, so you'll get used to using them and it'll be a lot quicker than selecting bits from your sidebars. So now we've got this, we're going to open Illustrator and place this building without the background into our Illustrator document. We'll go to Illustrator, new file, do the same. So if you're looking for A4, go to print, mine's at the top, there's all these ones. We'll keep it portrait, I'll change this to RGB. So this has come up. As we've selected print, it's automatically changed it to CMYK. However, I'm going to work in RGB, so I'll swap that. We're at 300 ppi, and we'll create this document. There we go. So Illustrator is very similar to Photoshop. Go to Window, Workspace, Essentials Classic. This will put all of these down there. There's our layers. I am just going to put that in there, as I'm used to having my layers up there. So layers work similar to how they do in Photoshop. We're on layer 1. You can use this target. Once we've got more layers in, it'll make more sense, but this target shows you what layer you're on. You can hide layers and show them again, and you can add new layers or create a sub layer in the layer you're in. So we'll place that image from Photoshop into this Illustrator file. Go to Photoshop, File, Save As, and I will just save this as 1.2 into the same folder as before and as a Photoshop document. Save. There we go. That has saved. So we'll go back to the Illustrator document, File, Place, and then there we go. That's what I've just saved. Click on that, place, and place that down. So because our Photoshop document has a white background, it has placed it with the white background. But you can see here, we've got that building from Photoshop without the background on the photo. So I'm going to go to Photoshop, unlock the background, and delete that layer. Then I'm going to Command S, Alt and S to save. Go back to Photoshop, Illustrator, and it's saying that a file is missing or modified in the links panel. We will Click yes to update that, and there you go. We've got rid of the backgrounds. So if you're creating maybe a graphic poster, or you're just editing a few of your drawings together, you can do things like photo editing, color correction on Photoshop, cutting out certain parts of it, link that file to Illustrator, and it'll come up like that. So you're not faffing between copying and pasting between the two different programs. So I'm going to show you the links panel. Go to Window and Links. This shows that we've got this document linked. So if you place an image in, you can use this panel to link it to your document, or you can embed it to the document so it will then become part of the document itself. So at the end we will embed that link. And also if you've got a broken link, you can relink your image. So if you've moved the file on your computer, say you've swapped folders, you've been tidying stuff up, you go to open it and the link's broken, you can update it here. For now, I'm going to close that. So that's our first image on our collage. I'm going to go back to Photoshop and edit the second image to put on this collage. So Photoshop, I'm going to create a new document. Click on A4 so all the same settings come up, and create. File. Going to open up this line drawing. Rasterize. So this line drawing is quite dark, so I'd like to make it brighter so I can see it better. I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast. Turn the brightness up a bit. Make it a bit more contrasting. And I'm going to make sure it's completely black and white to get rid of the yellowing of the background. If you've scanned an image, oftentimes the paper won't be perfectly white. So if you turn it to black and white, that's the best way to get rid of any colour. You can mess with the saturation, but that doesn't do it as well. So now I've got this, I'm going to delete my background again. I'm just going to crop the bit. I just want this line drawing, so I'm going to get rid of the rest. Make sure we're on that layer. But I open an A4 document as that's just how I've always worked. You will find how you work. You could just open this image itself. You'll figure your own workflow out. So I'm going to save this as 2.2. Same folder, Photoshop file. Save. Now that's saved, I'm going to open it in Illustrator. File, Place. I'm just going to place that on top of that other image there. So now you can see on my layer panel, if I expand it, there's my 2 layers. Once I click on one, a blue square will come up next to the one I've selected. That'll show you what you've selected. So it's in layer 1, small blue square. That's the one I've selected. If you select multiple, they'll both come up. That means all of layer 1 selected. And you can select by just clicking these blue squares, or by clicking the actual image. Okay, so I'm going to work with this image that I've just brought in. I'm going to try and pick up these lines and create vectorized drawing from it. So go to Windows, Image Trace, click on that. You can image trace from this quick menu, however, it won't bring up the window for it. It'll just use the preset. So we're going to do a black and white trace. I'm going to turn the threshold up a bit. If you put the threshold up to the top, it'll just select everything. If you put it down, it won't select as much. And I'm going to open Advanced Settings. I'm going to leave these, but if you mess with these, you can change how the outcome comes out. I'm going to keep attributing on and do Ignore Color and select that background. Oh, we'll just do Ignore Color. From there, I'm going to press Trace. It'll come up with a pop-up box saying it may be slow. You can rasterize your image first to make it easier. However, I'm not going to do that. So look, it's traced the image, however it hasn't picked up all the fine lines. So now I'm going to turn your threshold up until you get something you like so. If you're happy with your outcome, you can mess with these. Click Expand, close that box, and now you can see that it has created a group. This is every small part that makes up this bigger image. This is good if you want to edit certain bits, maybe you want to pull out a few shapes, a few lines. But now I've got a line drawing as a vectorized image. So, once you start doing a few different things, you can start layering bits up. From here, I think I want to fill certain parts in with colours. So, I'm going to just take my pen tool and maybe draw a box. Press Escape so it doesn't do any more. Maybe I want that colour. I'm going to drag this path below my other group, this group, so it's behind it. Oh. And there we go. I've coloured in this bit. this is nice to accent parts of your image, especially if it's just a line drawing. You can make some really nice effects with this. But you could start layering up and colouring in different parts of your image to highlight bits and just make it stand out. So next, I'm going to do the same to show you how we could do a coloured image. So we're going to image trace this building as well. So window, image trace. I'm going to go from black and white to colour, and I'm only going to do 10 colours. So this will simplify the drawing into 10 colours rather than using every colour. We're going to ignore colour. If we don't press ignore colour, it will create a white background that's as big as the bounding box. And trace. There we go. I may add a few more colours in, simplified it a bit more than I wanted. There we go. It doesn't, you need to play around with this. As you can see, it's not done what I wanted, but you can, once you have a play, you can make some really nice images. So there, I've expanded the image and I've created all the separate paths. You can see it's created a really nice graphic look. From here, we can swap from the selection tool to the direct selection, where we can do, as it says, select and adjust anchor points and segments to reshape paths. And we can select paths, delete that path, or Alt and Z to get it back. You can select each path. So let's say I wanted to change the colour of this. I'll select that path and we'll make it red, for example. So you can start to recolour your image. By selecting a path. I'll select this path, this dark colour. There we go. So I'm going to go select, same, fill colour. So that has selected every path that has the same fill colour as the one I've just selected. This is a good way to recolour your entire image. So I've filled and changed every one of them to that colour. I'll do it again. It's like that light cream colour. Select same fill colour. Selected all of those that are the same colour, and I'm going to change them to a grey. There we go. So it's a really nice way to edit these images. You can change the colour of your image, your drawing. Maybe your drawing's only got 4 colours, you can easily change the 4 colours. So here's an example of how I've used this. Here it's not the best editor, it's got no shadows, but here I was given a brief during my degree where we had to use a very specific colour palette. We set the brief by Dulux. So they had the very specific colours we had to use. So I went and drew each of these, like the pufferfish, the octopus, these background patterns. I drew them all by hand on paper, brought them into Photoshop and edited them, and then I took them into Illustrator, did what we just did, and spent time changing the colours to the specific colours set by the brief. Like when you scan stuff, it won't be the same colour. So I had loaded in colour swatches. I don't know if I've still got them actually. You can add swatches, so add a new swatch, and if you know the RGB code or the CMYK, or you can find colours online. I forgot what that one's called. You can find colours online and input them there. So say that's the colour I want. Go OK, and I've added it to here, but you can add a new folder, colour group 1, put it in there. So I created my own folder of colours from the brief using the exact colour codes that we've been given by Dulux, and edited each of my assets on Illustrator. I then took them into Photoshop and created a repeat in Photoshop, and that's how, using my drawings that are drawn by hand, I edited them digitally and then used them to create something else. So say you had 5 buildings, you want to colour them all the same, you could do this, or you could use your line drawings, and then you could make a collage, whatever you want, and use that for your handing. Here you can see my different groups. I can move them, I could put this one over the other one. I could make a new layer and put that group in that layer, and then hide it to edit just this layer. You can lock your layers, so that means if you've got a background you've been working on, let's add in a background. So I'm going to add in a 3rd layer, drag it below this, and on this layer I'm going to put, I'm going to add that, and I want it behind everything else, so it's at the bottom of my layers channel. But then if I am trying to pick up something else, I might pick up this by accident and start moving it. Yeah, like that. So you can lock this layer, so now I can't select it. You can only select things on top. Similarly, you can pick up a whole layer by just clicking the circle to a side. You can't select something that's locked. And you can hide layers, and you can select multiple layers by holding the shift key. You select both of them. So we've got all those open. You can select them all, or you could just select one. You can also go down, hold your key down and just swipe, and you can lock and unlock all of the layers at once. For some reason, you can't do that to select them. So unlock them all. You can't hold and swipe to select them, which is odd, but yeah. To finish off, we're going to place a third file in this document, and I'll show you how to embed it into the document. As we have expanded the images, we can no longer, when we image trace them, we expanded them after we traced them, we can no longer edit these on Photoshop, and it won't edit them on Illustrator anymore as we've rasterized them. So we're going to place another file. We'll just place this image. This image of the Reynolds building. So I'll hold down my shift key and keep it the same size. So I've placed that image. Now if I go to Window and Links, it's linked. So if I edited this image on Photoshop, the edit would be shown here as well. So I'm going to click on it, and we're going to embed it so that it can be sent in this file to someone else. So click on this side panel and embed images. The link has now disappeared, and it's now part of this file. So if I send this to someone, it will be in there. Whereas before, if I hadn't embedded it, it would send, but if I didn't also send the original file and they linked it, it wouldn't open with it. It'd open without it being there. So that's now embedded in. So now you could just save your document as normal. File, save as, workshop for test. I guess it's a test. Save it to the docs. There we go. So finally, I'm just going to show you Adobe Express quickly. So Adobe Express is web-based. So but if you type in Adobe Express, it will come up. So you can upload something from your computer. It has Adobe AI built in. It's not the best, but quick actions, and there's loads of templates. So if you scroll down, there's templates for everything. Banners for whatever you need a banner for Facebook or YouTube. There's all sorts of different templates. And then along here you can see that there's different templates for Instagram Reel, TikTok video. You can generate a QR code. If you go to brands, you can create brands, so the branding is the same. So now I could add logos and colours and fonts all into this, and it'll create templates that use them all. This is good if you've got a big hand in and you're collating lots of documents together. You could put it all into start a brand, and you'll use the same fonts, the same colours throughout every document. I wish I had this for my hand-ins, because although it is very similar to InDesign, you can just link more to this. So I could add a colour swatch on my colour palette for the project, and then it can be used in anything. So if you're creating videos or posters or slideshows, anything, these all come up. You can also schedule social media posts. I thought that was interesting. So edit them and then schedule them direct from Adobe Express, and it's got great videos and tutorials. They are actually very useful. It's worth going through them, or going through ones that you're a bit stuck on, and they will give you a good idea of what you can do with the software. I think that's everything. Yeah, we might have made a very ugly poster, but you can make some really nice things with this. Yeah, that's everything. Went through it a lot quicker here than we did in the session, but I hope this helps.